All right, here we go. Happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you for joining. Today we have a very special conservation conversation. Gary Pittman. We're going to have Gary Pittman on live, and it's a great day to be tuning in because Gary Pittman is one of the most amazing phosphate activists that there is out there. And this guy actually has taken on major phosphate chemical companies and has won and has changed the future of everyone that works in the mines and also has to live around them. So we're very excited today to have Gary. Good morning. Hope everybody's having some coffee, some tea, some whatever you prefer at this hour or wherever your hour may be. So I'm having an amazing experience with the movie. It has been incredible. The movie has been doing great on the Amazon charts. It's been consistently getting viewed, and it's showing a lot of the other critics and studios this topic that they want to talk about. And so very important. I really, really appreciate everybody's support. So far, the movie's doing great. Everybody that joined us in Tampa, it was great to meet you. And everybody that's just joining us now, it's a perfect time to come get involved. Then you can make a change wherever you may be and whatever your water issue may be, because this is about more than just phosphate. This is about all the water issues. It's about a way of business that these companies are doing that is causing us to get sick. The people that live around there and the people that have to work there, unfortunately. Hello, good morning, Miria. I hope I said your name right. Sorry. Being an ERIK, I completely understand about names getting getting a little butchered here and there. You can stream the movie at phosphatemovie.com. And I'm going to put that up right now for you so that you right now. Anytime that you go and you stream the movie or you buy the movie from the website, you are going to be helping us as well. And again, it's really not about the movie, it's about the movement. It's about everybody getting together, letting everybody else know what we're talking about. It's important. I don't want to be a movie that's out there about the topic. I want other movies about this topic as well. Hey, Diana, good morning. Thank you for joining us. It's really great to have you on the show here with us today. You're here on a great day because we're going to be talking about battling a giant. We're going to be talking about the phosphate industry and its relations to cancer and other chronic illnesses. And we're going to be talking today about another topic, fluoride. That's right. Even if you're not near the is this particular line, wearing my Mosaic shirt today. But Mosaic, the company, they actually create the majority of the phosphoride that is out there. So So they're taking the toxic runoff, and they are, I don't want to give that one away just yet. Here we go. So anyway, let's start the day off and let's start talking about a few things that involve our guest today, Gary Pittman. And as I said, we're going to talk about the intimidation, what it is to be a whistleblower, and not even a whistleblower, but somebody that just stands up for what is right, no matter the consequences. And that's what Gary Pittman has done. And that is why we have so much change within the industry. And we need more people to stand up. We need more people to take on this mission like Gary has in order to really continue to affect change for the future. So Lisa says, I found it hard to try to stream a couple weeks ago and give up. Oh, okay. Well, hopefully if you go back to phosphatemovie.com, Vimeo should be nice and easy. Like I said, you can also order DVDs from there or DVDs on Amazon, Walmart, or Barnes & Noble, wherever you'd like to go. Maria will not let me rent or buy it. Okay, well, I'll reach out. I'll send you a link that should be able to work for you as soon as the show is done today. So I'll get that link out to you. I'm going to try to put the link here on the website, on the chat right now as well, so everybody can go to that link if you want to, and you can learn how to support the movie. And it's not just the movie. So this is what I wanted to talk about real quick before we begin today. This is the movie poster, but what we have at the back of the movie, and you might not be able to read that very well, but I deserve clean water. And if you go to the website and you click under Take Action, you're going to find that we have a letter writing campaign. Now, the letter writing campaign goes to both the governor, but also more importantly to the county commissioners. And the county commissioners are the people that are going to make this decision whether Mosaic is allowed to rezone so many, over 10,000 acres in DeSoto. This comes up on the January 2023. Now, what's important about this vote is that DeSoto already said no, but Mosaic didn't listen, and they threatened to sue them. And now, through mediation, which is basically them throwing their own workshops and trying to tell everybody that phosphate is good for people, that phosphate mining is good for neighborhoods and environment and people. So they're trying to convince everybody over there. Mostly they're trying to convince the county commissioners. Now, if you're not familiar with Florida, there's a thing called the Sunshine Law. And what this means is that in order for Mosaic to convince the commissioners, Sunshine Law means everything has to be done within a public purview. So no matter what is happening in Florida, the county commissioners are not legally allowed to get together behind closed doors and talk about things. So there's an element of transparency there. But what's happened is these workshops have just become Mosaic propaganda workshops, where they get everybody there and they just have experts from the FDP and Mosaic. And if you haven't seen the movie yet, you'll understand the connection between those two is very, very cozy. But these county commissioners, they said no, and then Mosaic threatened to sue the county for way more money than the county has, I think around $60 million. And they had to go to this mediation. Now, what's going to happen is in January 2023, Mosaic gets to come back and vote on every single one of their permits at once. Normally, they have to have multiple hearings, multiple votes. But the part of this agreement is that they get to vote once. So if Mosaic comes back and wins, it's all over, game over. And this is the last chunk of phosphate mining in Florida. I was just looking at an amazing book by Ted Eman called Boom or Bust, Bone Valley. It is about the history of phosphate mining. And one thing that Ted brings up that is fascinating is that this is the last piece of phosphate mining available in Florida. What does that mean? We all know that Mosaic has spread out. It has gone to more places. They're in Morocco. They're in Brazil. They have places in India. They have places in China. They have places all around the world. And what they're going to do is when they're done with this phosphate, they're going to continue to move on. Anyway, let's continue on. I wanted to talk a little bit about today, and I wanted to talk a little bit about our guest, Gary Pittman. So let's bring him back on here for a second. So today is an amazing special with Gary Pittman. And if you're not familiar with Gary, Gary is a former mine worker. He worked at the chemical plants, he was a manager there, and he worked in the mines for a long time until he and all of his friends started getting sick. And Gary spoke up and took on this industry, and they went after Gary for the rest of his life. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. But this is Gary's book, Phosphate, Fluoride, Toxic Torts. It's a great book. It is the book that one of the books that I used during the research for the documentary. And Gary's story has been incredible so far. Now, we're gonna get him in a little bit closer. We're gonna have Gary on the show here in a few minutes so that everybody can have an opportunity to talk to him. And I want to really encourage everybody to ask Gary some questions today, because to have access to somebody like this who has been through what he's been through, whether you're an activist that is fighting right now, you're somebody that wants to try to get involved, you're somebody that doesn't know how to start, or somebody that just is curious about what may come through this. Gary has never been stopped, and he's always spoken the truth about phosphate mining and about what's happening out there, about the way it ruins the environment, about the toxic runoff known as hydrofluorosilicic acid. Gary has been one of the big proponents to explain that that is what we call fluoride in our drinking water. And hydrofluorosilicic acid, if you're not familiar with it, it will completely surprise you what you have been ingesting through your drinking water once you hear what fluoride actually is. But today, let's talk about a quote that I think really sums up Gary and his mission. It is, "Never be bullied into silence. Never allow yourself to be made a victim. Accept no one's definition in your life. Define yourself." Robert Frost. Now, as we all know, Robert Frost, the road less traveled, and Gary is a great example of that as well, because Gary could have continued in his job. He could have continued what he was doing. He could have had a very comfortable, easy life. All he had to do was look the other way. And that is what these companies count on. They count on people looking the other way because they depend on them for their survival. They depend on them for their money. They depend on them for their families. So they really get people in a very difficult situation. Now, the other aspect to it as well is that a lot of times people are just subcontractors, which means they come in, they do the job, and then they are gone by the time they start to get sick. The company no longer takes care of them. So you're talking about people getting paid really well for jobs. And this is where the complication comes in. And, people that work at Mosaic get paid very well, but there's no longevity. And when they get cancer, and when they get their liver failure, and when they start getting leukemia and other forms of illnesses, the company is not there to stand behind them. And that's one of the things the movie really wants to talk about, is there's a lack of responsibility. That the company is over here. They make this product that is so dangerous for human health, whether it's the fluoride, whether it's the phosphate, it doesn't matter. Both of these not only are toxic in the way that they are applied and used directly to us, but they are toxic in the way that they are produced, and they are toxic in the way that they are dealt with in their trash. So Mosaic over here only has to pay for the manufacturing of the phosphate, for the digging of the phosphate, for the separation of phosphate, fluoride, and uranium through the beneficiation plant. So they only have to pay for that. They don't have to pay for all the workers that get sick. They don't have to pay for all the community members that get sick. They don't have to pay for everybody else that is going to pay the human toll for the profit for this company. They don't even have to clean up their mess. Right now, and by the way, on the 25th, if you are in Florida, if you can make it to Lakeland, we'll be putting the event up on our page. But right now, Mosaic is asking to expand the chip stack that had a sinkhole because they need a place for more toxic waste. Now, what happens to these things? Well, everybody learned what happens to these things in Piney Point. Piney Point is a great example. That is a chip stack that, it's no longer in use. So what does it do? It just sits there until eventually it either sinks into the limestone, creates a sinkhole, weather event comes in, rain comes in, pulls it over to the top of the chip stack, and then they cannot control their mess. And what happens is the taxpayers end up paying. So no matter what your politics are, if you pay taxes, you are paying for Mosaic to do their business, because when they're all said and done and they leave, and they will leave, and they're going to leave this chip stack there, that chip stack is going to become a taxpayer funded cleanup project. That means they're not only getting all of us sick, they're destroying the environment, they're destroying nature, and they're going to make you pay for that just so they can make more money. It's not the way things should be done, and it's something we really need to look at and consider. How can we change this business model? Because that is one of the biggest problems. We talk about this in the movie. It's the cancer of the body politic, the cancer that already exists within the way business is being done. It's not the business that is 100% at fault here. It's the business doing what they're allowed to get away with. And that is where it gets really sickening, because a lot of this is approved by the state. So the same people you're voting for, the same people you're putting your hopes in, are the same people that are allowing these polluters to poison us every day. So how can you fix a system like that? It's up to us. There are solutions. That's the thing. Don't feel overwhelmed. There are a lot of solutions. And one of them that's really important is getting everybody together and creating a unified voice to speak up against these types of issues. So let's see, who do we have on here today? We have Jan. Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Hey, Corley, glad to see you here. And Lynn, thank you. Thank you for being out here on the show with us today. Hey, Charlotte, nice to see you again. Thank you for coming out to the screening in Tampa. It was amazing to meet you. Charlotte is going to be on the show as an upcoming guest, and she's got some amazing stories about Piney Point, and we're going to talk about how it's affecting the quality of life there and the quality of the water there. So thank you for Charlotte for being on here today with us. Let's see, Lynn says, it blows my mind that a company can sue counties when they say they don't want them anymore. Isn't that nuts? And especially in Florida, where they have something called home rule, which is supposed to allow local municipalities the ability to override any other type of legislative measure. They're supposed to be able to control their own destiny. But as we've seen with DeSoto right now, it doesn't always work. And just because DeSoto stood up against Mosaic. So one thing you can do, everybody, you can go to Mosaic. It's a group on Facebook. It will give you the most amount of information on what is happening with Mosaic. Right here, Jeremy Block, Molly Bowen, two creators. They're in the documentary. They also started the Mosaic group. Go to Facebook group. You have to fill out a quick questionnaire. Wouldn't want anybody from Mosaic in there. And they will be able to keep you updated. It's an amazing resource. They have articles of what's happening. They will keep you updated because remember, this is not a battle that took place in the movie. This is not a battle that happened 4 years ago or 2 years ago or 1 year ago. This is a battle that's happening right now. And this is a battle that everybody that watches the movie needs to join this army for a better future and stop Mosaic. And we can all stop Mosaic. You can write letters to the county commissioners. You can call them. We need to overwhelm the county commissioners with the fact that people do not want mining in their town. Mosaic's been saying it. Even the county commissioners did it. They voted against Mosaic once. It's a very strong possibility they will vote against them again, as long as everybody keeps adding public pressure, more and more public pressure. Molly says DeSoto County is for horses and families, not drag lines. Absolutely right, Molly. And again, if you haven't seen the movie, Molly does a lot of water testing, really is focused on trying to track what's being, left out from the mines into the water systems, down into eventually the water that we're all drinking, the water that we're showering with, the water that you're adding, making dinner with, making your coffee with. As I drink coffee, think about that right now. So you really need to consider, again, it's not the mine. They can't keep all their toxic waste on their property. And here's the weird part. They say that they do, but at the same time, they admit that they don't. What am I talking about? Here's what I mean. They will say that the gyp stack cannot leave the premises, that it's all secured. Even when they had a sinkhole, they said it never left the premises. They say that they are able to keep all of their toxicity in a well-managed area inside of their own mines. But they also get permits for every 70 million gallons of water a day to take from the river, run it through the process, take out the uranium, take out the phosphate, and then put it back into the water supply. Now it's got toxins. It's got arsenic. It's got polonium. It's got heavy metals. A lot of you are familiar with the fact that they use cyanobacteria as a bioremediation and then release that eventually. And if they don't release it into the local groundwater, it doesn't even matter, because between the weather events and the rain and the water table changes and the tidal change, that water is going to hop out of the container it's in. At Norma's, we got to see dust, toxic dust flying everywhere. This dust, it often carries these radon particles and gives people lung cancer, which, by the way, is the #2 killer in the US. So unless they can guarantee us that they're going to be able to stop dust from flying in the wind past their fence, or they're going to be able to stop a leak that goes into limestone and then works its way throughout the whole aquifer. And until they can do that, they need to be held accountable to be more responsible. And this movie is not about trying to make Mosaic stop, because look, what they do is necessary. How they do it is completely irresponsible. What we want is responsible. They have to be responsible for the people around them. And if they can't be responsible for the people around them, then they need to create a fund or do something to help people. When they were fined back in 2015, nearly $2 billion, almost $2 billion by the EPA, one of the things that they were supposed to have done was create a victim compensation fund, which would include health monitoring. Now, for people that are not familiar with health monitoring is when a company says, you know what, we are just putting so much toxic stuff out there, we will give you and your family free health monitoring through the doctors. We will pay for anything that happens to you as a consequence of our activities around there. Now, health monitoring generally has to be sued for, and health monitoring is important, but it so far, Mosaic has never even admitted that they do one thing wrong. So how is a company like that going to step up and start helping the people that it surrounds if they continue to lie and just say that they're not affecting the environment at all? And your politicians, and again, you can go to opensecrets.org. It is an amazing website. You can find who is giving money to the politicians you're voting for. Doesn't matter which side they're on. This is a congressional record. So when you find a lot of these areas where there's mining, you will find that Mosaic has placed money with them. But they give them a little bit of money because, see, Mosaic doesn't really have any respect for the people that they are around. So even the politicians that they're paying off, and you can say whatever you want to about these politicians, but these politicians are still getting pennies compared to the amount of money they're giving to their PR firms to make the commercials that tell you what a great company they are. So that just shows you right there. They're not even busy worrying about paying off people, because it goes bigger than a lot of these local politicians, but they do need to pay them off. And it is in opensecrets.org. I'm not making any of it up. You can check it out. It's also in the movie. But once they do that, remember that they might be giving 10 grand to Greg Stube, or Vern Buchanan might get, 10 grand, 15 grand, Marco Rubio. But those guys are getting that, but over $800,000 a year is going to a lobbyist. Why is that? What can you imagine that they're doing with $800,000 in a lobbying firm? And why do they pay that amount of money? And yet it appears to the casual observer, it appears to the regular citizen that they're not part of politics, that they're just this company doing good stuff. Well, then why are they putting so much money into lobbying? It's a question that they don't have an answer for. It's a question we tried to get answers for. It's a question they will not even talk about. So Molly, yes, thank you, Gary Pittman. I think we're having a technical issue with Gary, so we may not be able to get Gary on today. I'm still going to play you a clip about Gary here in just a minute, because I want to talk about Gary's story, and hopefully Gary will be able to join us here. Carrie Bowers, hey Carrie. Carrie says Arcadia City Council is moving Arcadia Chamber of Commerce into Mosaic's office house. Now that is a absolutely crazy and true thing that just happened. We're going to get to what Paul's saying here as well. So this is really crazy for everybody that doesn't know. The Arcadia City Council is moving the Arcadia City Chamber of Commerce. Now, the Chamber of Commerce, that is one of the main bodies that really regulates how businesses are run in the area. They're moving into the house building of Mosaic. Now, why does Mosaic have an office inside of DeSoto across from the courthouse if they're saying, well, we'll just wait and see what's going to happen with the permits? Why are they there? They're already there. In the movie, we go to the house, we try to talk to them. Heather Nedley gets upset and we have to leave. But it's not an easy place to get into. Maybe if everybody else agrees, maybe we should try to go into the new Chamber of Commerce this week, and let's go into the Mosaic office as well and see what's happening there. Well, maybe we can try to take everybody with us. Molly says the clay slime pits. Christy, what was that website? Christy, if I'm not quite sure, I think if you're talking about the politicians, it's opensecrets.org. Rubel put it right underneath, and thank you for adding that as well. And Linda says, better late than never. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Eric and Craig. Thank you for being on with us today, Linda. Now, Paul DeGata says, now Paul is a long-time, phosphate mining activist and advocate. He has been battling for clean environment, clean water for a long time. So Paul says, please don't ignore the downstream effects of phosphate mining. Discuss what Mosaic gets to do for the cost of a permit, some of which are 5 to 20 years in duration, and outflowing their processed water daily into the Peace River. Yes. Since Mosaic's last year's tenfold permit increase, the Peace River that I monitor daily and has had a drastic decrease of fish that should be here in abundance, tarpon and mullet. They pump tens of millions of gallons daily to delete the pollution. Now, this is a great point. That is one thing, is the EPA has set for them very special standards, and they do need the dilution, but the way that they accomplish that, and what Paul's talking about, if you're not familiar with this, Paul is talking about the fact that they go and they take the water, they process it, and they put it back into the Peace River. And the idea is that as it travels down, it's going to dilute, and then it's no longer going to be dangerous. Once again, them admitting that what they're putting into the water is dangerous because they need it to dilute through the water. So by their own logic, they are admitting what they're doing, even though they won't just come out and say it. So, so Paul is making a great point here. Where the outfalls are, say they're up here, they're going to come down the river. Now, as they go down the river, they're going to go out into the tributaries. They're going to start to affect the fish. They're going to affect the birds that eat the fish. They're going to affect the people that eat the fish, the people that eat the birds. They're going to affect the entire system, and it's going to throw off the biodiversity of what's happening there. And it's also going to create not only an imbalance in the land, but it is going to end up in everybody's drinking water. So everybody, I want to play a clip right now because Gary is joining us, and we're going to bring him on in just 1 second. But first, I would like to play a clip of Gary so that everybody can meet Gary here through the movie. What kind of intimidation or difficulties did you have with the company once they figured out that you were vocal about what you saw going on?
Well, they tried to get the judge to put a gag order on me and all that, and I think he did a couple of times. I just didn't pay no mind to it. I just kept talking. I didn't have any friends, I thought, left, but people, they told people not to even talk to me if they saw me in the grocery store. Jeez. Or in church. Said, don't have anything to do with him. Don't even speak to him if you value your job. That suited me. A little later on, through the years, I guess my social life was with the people that had been poisoned. That got to be my friends. It would be these people that was poisoned, couldn't work no more. They'd come over, and I got where I'd just have a little meeting. I'd call it the meetings. We're going to have a meeting. Y'all want to come over? We're going to do some ribs, or we're going to cook some hamburgers on the grill. And we just get together, all of us, and everybody loved each other because they was all in the same boat. And as they died off, it was sad, because so-and-so, you all hear he was in the hospital, he's got bone cancer, he's got lung cancer. They'd want to do video interviews of these people dying, and I'd go, because I could a lot of times tell the attorneys what he's trying to say, because they didn't understand the lingo where he worked and what he was exposed to. It's just a sad thing. This it shouldn't be happening.
Just as Gary said, it should not be happening. But without any more waiting, let us bring in Gary Pittman. Hey, Gary, thanks for joining today.
Hi, Eric. How you doing? Good to see you.
Hey, good. Yeah, it's nice to catch up with you again. Yeah, that's really heartbreaking. You know, every time I watch that clip, just to think of what you've been through, and that you're still fighting, and that's what I think is really an amazing aspect to what you've been doing and what you have done. So, for everybody that's just joining us now, can you tell us a little bit about what you were doing at work and why you felt the need to speak up?
Well, Eric, I was a area manager / superintendent at the time. I had worked my way up through the years, had been in the analytical laboratory for a couple of years, learned all the chemical aspects of the products we were making of the rock, and worked my way up to the middle management area of the company. And I became ill. I got to where I couldn't move my legs as I should. It was neuropathy, and was messing with my central nervous system, the fumes, the chemicals out there. I was having some other problems as well, some heart problems. Everything went good for a while, you know. I had 2 insurance policies that I'd taken out in 1972. Didn't need them till then, which was 21 years later. When I first went out of work, things went pretty smooth, you know, because they thought I was coming back. And helped them start up all those plants out there, and had a real good record. I had advanced. In other words, I was a good employee. Basically, after that 6-month short-term disability quit, I had to go on long-term disability. Well, that's when the trouble started. They would threaten to cut off my long-term disability if I didn't have this paper filled out or that paper filled out by the doctor. It starts out really with denial. They'll deny everything. You know, to start with, you file a claim and they deny. That's what they're famous for, denial. They'll deny claims from anybody getting hurt. They'll deny claims of spills. They'll deny claims. They just deny. So what I wound up having to do is I had 4 children at home and a wife, and didn't know where the money was coming from, and all I had was that long-term disability. And I knew I had to keep that until I could get my Social Security disability. And so it put me in a real pickle because I was having to fight them to keep that going. And at the same time, all the MSDSs that I had put in a big book out there that the law had required in, I think, 1991. And so what I started doing is I got to thinking, and I decided to go to some doctors. And when I went to the doctors told me, you know, what was going on. I also had muscle disease, just had some really weird stuff going on in my body. So I guess the answer to what you were saying, that's what I was doing. And eventually I got some attorneys and you know, started on back.
So once you were able to sort of connect, you know, what you were exposed to at work, and just so everybody knows, we're talking about phosphate mining. Even though we're talking about Mosaic now, you were with Occidental at the time, or? Is that? Oop, I think we're a little frozen here.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure everybody Right new. So Gary, when you started to get sick, you know, I know that you could have just sort of taken the route, and you know, when we get sick, it becomes difficult to do day-to-day things. But you not only did day-to-day things, but you started to fight back, and you ended up taking them to court. And can you tell us about that? Because I think that it's an amazing spirit. You know, that when you found out what was happening, you just had to speak up. Here we go. I think we have between our two signals, we yeah, we may be having some issues here.
We have basically we had it was 6-7 years a long battle through the courts. I wound up filing a workers' claim, which basically was a long battle. They just denied it and denied it and denied it. I finally found some case law where you could sue your employer in Florida if you could prove you were either doing this act by intention grounds or through there was injuring you. So we actually filed a comp claim and filed a personal injury. And basically we had the thing for 6 years. It was just back into they don't want to admit anything, didn't want to help in any way. We'd have mediation show up and, just a few dollars, and it's a real hard battle on me. Something lived there. If it reached out of so we did. I think for I knew a lot was going on legal.
Not sure if anyone else is getting. I'm having Gary. You seem to be kind of clicking in and out. I think there might be a signal. Okay, you're back now with us, Gary. We lost you there for a second. You there?
Okay. I don't know what's going on. A good speed here, but something's going on. But anyway, to make a long story short, it may cost them a little bit of extra money to do things right, but they don't do things right because it gets into their profits. And it wouldn't take that much more money to clean things up, to protect the workers, to protect the public, to they can get their phosphate. They want to do. They could do it in a lot better way than they're doing. And now they can save a lot of lives. They can save a lot of save some, the drinking water. They can save the, we don't talk about the air much, but they pollute the air a lot too with the fluorides, the stuff, things that they put out. They run them through scrubbers. Half the times those scrubbers aren't working properly, so people are getting getting that, and they getting the dust off the stack, the radiation dust that gets in your lungs. It gives you the lung cancer, the radons, the other thing.
And, Gary, talking about those kind of health effects, again, these companies, not only can they not promise that what they're doing and the way that they're making their products is not getting us sick, but they actually make a very toxic chemical that they illegally can sell because it's so toxic they can't even get rid of it. And you are one of the people that really has made a lot of sense out of what's happening out there with fluoride. Now, everybody that's listening says, well, fluoride, I heard it's good. My dentist said we should use it. There is a difference between medical grade fluoride and hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a concentrated runoff, toxic runoff from the mining industry that gets sold to municipalities all around the country. I found contracts with literally every city, every county within Florida. Internationally, it is one of the largest markets, and Mosaic is one of the biggest players with this particular thing. Now, Gary, for people that aren't familiar with sort of fluoride, could you kind of talk to us a little bit about how fluoride, or as people know it as fluoride, but actually hydrofluorosilicic acid is made? Oh no, I'm afraid we're having a signal issue here. Okay, I'm not sure if anybody else is able to hear Gary at the moment. I'm having some technical difficulties here. We've got, okay, let's see. Hopefully Gary can make it back on here with us. Gary is also the person that I learned about fluoride from. Gary's done multiple interviews and has been in other documentaries and projects trying to get the word out about fluoride. Gary, for some reason, I think we're having a hard time with the signal. I wanted to see if anybody else is having any issues here. Breaking up, but I'm still understanding. Okay, good. All right. Okay, well, at the moment, I apologize, everybody. Sometimes this happens with signals. We do the show all over the world. We have guests from all over the world. And sometimes, we just have to kind of deal with these technical issues as they pop up here and there. And we are, lagging bad. Okay, Coralie, thank you. Gary, I'm afraid, nobody's able to hear you right now, Gary. I think we're having a cell phone issue. If you can try to hop back in to the show, we'd still like to talk to you. If we have these technical issues, we will do another show with Gary and get another interview together here. So let me see if I can get Gary back in here real fast. Okay, Molly got kicked off.
Yeah. Yes.
I hear you, but Gary froze up. Okay, thank you, man. That's such a shame, everybody. I mean, Gary is so incredible. Another thing I would like to do, actually, while we have this on, while we're waiting for Gary's signal, is to share with everybody one more clip from the movie that involves Gary. Now, Gary's in multiple clips because Gary talks a lot about different aspects that happen as far as health, as far as other things go. And what I'm going to do right now is share.
They don't like to hear that word poisoning, but that's what it is. I mean, if you inject somebody with a poison and it kills them right away, it's kind of showing some mercy. You know what I mean? But just say you give him just a little bit every day for 20 years. I call that cruel.
Do you have a lot of friends that you also worked with at the time that also have illness now?
Oh, yeah. A lot of them have lung problems, cancer problems. kidney problems.
Mosaic employees are told that the chemical plant will substantially shorten your lifespan.
Because you want that job. That's what's putting that food on the table for those little children at home.
Okay, so even though we could not get Gary on the signal, I wanted to let Gary start talking to everybody because, again, if you have not seen the documentary, please go check it out, phosphatemovie.com. You really need to hear more about what Gary's talking about, whether it's the fluoride or the chemical issues that are happening. I mean, you got to think, this guy got so sick that it affected his quality of life forever. Then, instead of laying down and just battling back in his own private way, he publicly fought a huge industry. Phosphate mining industry is massive. And after that, they intimidated Gary. They intimidated him. They made his life difficult. They made people ignore him. They put public pressure on him. They did everything they could to stop him. And he instead just wrote some books and told everybody exactly what was happening because he watched his friends and his friends' families suffering. And that's something that we really find, especially with this movie, everybody that I've been able to connect with tends to be in this cause because of suffering. Whether their friends have suffered, they've suffered, their families have suffered, or they just don't want to see any more suffering. They've seen the land suffer. They've seen the water quality suffer. All this mining does is bring suffering. It's not bringing anything good to anybody except for the companies that are making all of their profits from this. Mr. Allen, can't believe. Oh, yeah. By the way, everybody that may or may not have seen the movie, Alan Killebrew, the gentleman that was just in the interview there that was on oxygen. Unfortunately, he did pass away from complications with all of his different illnesses. And Alan was a worker at the mines. Alan spent his life in the mines. But when he got sick, the mines were not there. And again, that comes back to the fact that Mosaic will tell you that they're one of the biggest employers in Florida, and that is just flat out false because they are not employing people. They're hiring. Perhaps they're one of the biggest hiring companies, but they're hiring subcontractors, which means that Mosaic does not pay their taxes, does not take care of them, and they're just for contract hire, can be fired at any time, and Mosaic does not have to do it. So again, Mosaic gets to make billions of dollars. They're a Fortune 500 company. They don't have to take care of their employees. They don't have to take care of the land. They don't have to pay for the cleanup of their chip stacks when it's all said and done. They don't have to pay for anything. They don't even have to pay for their water. It's free. It's permitted by the city, by the county, by the state, by everybody that people keep electing. You know, somebody brought up a great point the last time. They said, well, why don't we find out when these politicians are up for re-election? Because that's the only time they listen to people. And you know what? If that is the case, then we need to do that exact thing. We need to find out when they're up for re-election, and we need to grab their ear while we have it. Because they're not going to listen all the time. They are being given money by Mosaic. They're being given money by these industries to allow these industries to profit and flourish. But at what cost? At the cost of our health. And we say no more. So you got to remember, the politicians, you can vote them out. You can let people know what they're doing. They are very transparent. They have to be transparent. And you can find that information. Again, opensecrets.org. And she says, yes, they do that on purpose. Very good point. That's why they sell contaminated land to developers. It becomes harder to prove that the land was made toxic by them. And that is a great point as well. If you think about that, they get a permit, but then eventually they get to sell this land. So, you know, they're paying permit fees to the cities, but they're not officially paying for the land. Why is that? There's a fascinating thing called mineral rights. Now, if you're not familiar with mineral rights, especially if you live in this region, especially out in Florida, you need to look up mineral rights, because mineral rights are basically when you go and you buy a house out here, for example, you own about this much of your lawn, and everything under there is actually, at least in these areas out here where Mosaic is owned by Mosaic. They own the mineral rights to all these properties. So there is a lot going on with mineral rights. If you're going to buy a house, if you already have bought a house, check out the mineral rights situation. It will really surprise you. You'll think, how could this be happening right now? But again, it goes back to the problem of business as usual being bad for people. When business is good for business, it's bad for people. There's never a time where the two sort of correlate like that. Jeremy says, nice shirt, Air Crown. What's going on the 29th? All right, well, there we go. There's a nice segue. Thank you, Jeremy. So Mosaic is sponsoring a free benefit screening at the Millennial Brewing in Fort Myers. You can go to our you can go to our page on Facebook. You can go to any of our social medias. You'll find the flyer for it. Come on down. We're going to have a lot of amazing water activists. Jeremy will be there. I will be there. Hopefully a few more of the activists from the movie will be there. You can see the movie. It's a donation-based thing, and all the donations are going to Mosaic to help them pay for legal fees, testing, anything they need to fight back against this rezoning vote in 2023. So if you don't know how to help, but you do want to help everybody that's fighting Mosaic, look, this is one thing we know we can do. When we talk about clean water, it's a big concept. When we talk about cleaning the water, it's a big concept. When we talk about plastic debris, for example, it's a big concept. But when we talk about phosphate mining and turning off dangerous chemicals that can make people sick, it's not a big thing. It's not a big concept. There's one very simple thing we can do, and that is to stop them. And the only way to stop them is to stop them before they start, because once they start, you cannot stop them. We have an opportunity, an actionable opportunity in 2023 to hear these commissioners say no and uphold the will of the people as they did originally. But we do need everybody's help. We need the commissioners to know that there's a lot of public pressure. We need everybody to know that. And Mosaic needs your support. Go join their Facebook group. Come to the event on the 29th, Millennial Brewing in Fort Myers. Go check it out. We've got it up on our page. It's going to be really fun. Also, Millennial Brewing, they are such advocates of clean water. They're going to be giving back a portion of what they make for the day on sales back to Mosaic as well. So you can come down, you can help Mosaic. All you have to do is come down, hang out, have a drink, have a water, have a tea, have a beer. They have incredible beers there if you drink. If not, they have all kinds of other options for you. Come on down, join us, come talk to us, come meet us. We really want this movie to be seen by as many people as possible. But even more importantly, we want to unify all the water activists and all the land activists and all the clean environment activists that exist in Florida, because only by unifying are you going to be able to stop a giant together. One person can't necessarily do it unless they are with a bunch of other people. And then all those voices become one loud voice. And that cuts through all the white noise. The Mosaic spends a lot of money, over $800,000 a year, putting out there to keep people silent. Don't let them silence you any longer. And again, 29th is a great event. Come on out. The 28th, if you are in Port Charlotte, come out to the 28th. I'll be doing a screening. I'll be with Ted Eman, and he will be having his book signing there. You can get the book. The book is about phosphate mining over the last, since it began really in the 1800s. It's an amazing history of phosphate mining, which is a very complex and rich history, whether it's the miner's culture or it's how phosphate works, why it's important. But also one thing Ted brings up that's super important is this is Mosaic's last hurrah. And Ted, that's what Ted calls it. And I think it's a brilliant term because this is their last chance to get more land. And just like cancer, Mosaic has to consume. After it's consumed and eaten, it has to consume more. So we have to remember that, and we have to stop them. The only way to stop them is by denying this rezone. And you can help. Come to the 29th, help sponsor Mosaic. Go to Mosaic's page, help sponsor Mosaic. Watch the movie, learn about what's happening out there. Make up your own mind if you think that Mosaic is acting responsibly or if they need to be held in a more transparent way in order to make sure that they're not getting people sick. Okay, Paula, great. Oh, good, fantastic. Can't wait to see you over there. I'm excited to have you come join us. It's going to be a great event. Thank you for all your support. And I know, no matter what you do in the water, if you're a diver, if you just like to watch the water, the water, the red tide, everything is also being affected by phosphate. Paul DeGata was talking about this before. We cannot underrate the damage being done by all these outfalls and all of it coming through the waterways. And you got to remember that once phosphate comes in, it feeds the red tide through eutrophication. It feeds the red tide. It's like a miracle grow for the red tide. So the last thing red tide needs is additional phosphate levels. Carl, yes, hope to see Gary soon for all his comments. Yeah, exactly, Carl. I know it was a bummer we couldn't have a good signal today. I have to tell everybody, I've had the great fortune of getting to know Gary over the last few years, and he is an amazing inspiration. He is an unstoppable force, and he is one of the main reasons that a lot of us can do what we're doing right now, because only because of Gary did the phosphate industry have to admit that there are health effects and health hazards in phosphate mining. Gary made that happen. And if you haven't read his book, highly, highly recommend it. Jeremy Block, we need to get more shirts. Yes, for sure. September showing in Arcadia. Molly's right. September 4th. The documentary Phosphate will also be screened in Arcadia, and that is the homeland right there. That's where it's all happening. If you can get out there and help support the cause. Again, this is one thing we can all come together and do and make a change, and this change will benefit everybody that lives in Arcadia and everybody that lives downstream, everybody that lives upstream, everybody that lives around it. There is nothing but good karma coming from this. So we need everybody to come together. This is so important. Molly says, come to Arcadia, September 4th, 10 at 10. Drusilla, great news about the opportunity at Millennial Brewing on the 29th. I'll be glad to participate, as I did miss the movie in Tampa. Thank you for your determination applied to purpose. Drusilla, I cannot wait to see you again. I remember seeing you at the Florida 67 meeting a few years back, and I'm looking forward to catching up again and having you there. I know you're always working for cleaner water. And Lynn says, thank you, Gary. Yes, Gary is amazing. Guys, look, we have the link down here for Gary's book. It is absolutely incredible what they put Gary through. But we got to remember, it's not a simple battle. We're talking about billions of dollars worth of profit from these companies. And when people like Gary speak up, they put a fly in the ointment, as the expression goes. And these companies, they're used to working in daylight transparency. They're doing harmful things to us and pretending like it's okay and doing them right in front of our eyes. That's the weird thing, is that none of this is hidden. All of this is in front of us. All of this is accessible to us. They just are hiding in plain sight, and we have to open our eyes to what's happening to make that stop. So Gary, amazing water warrior, one of the OGs. And really, his book is incredible. Jeremy's got more Mosaic shirts ordered. When you go to the event, hopefully on the 29th, right, Jeremy? We're going to have these shirts for sale. You can buy them. And again, all the money, all the donations from Millennial Brewing on the 29th all go to help Mosaic fight Mosaic. It's a lot to say there. But every penny will go to Mosaic. Every penny will go to this battle. Every penny will go to stopping this rezone. You can help. Come join us. I'm very proud that the movie can be part of this benefit screening and can help, because that's the whole goal. Education, activism. That's how we make change. So I'm really honored to be part of this incredible group of activists, and amazing how many activists I've had the good fortune to meet just by having this movie coming out and talking to so many people about their stories. Here we go. And Corley, thank you for being here. Jan, thank you for joining and supporting as always. And don't hide. Just play the same game, telling the truth. There you go. Easily said right there. Words of wisdom. And this is exactly what we have to do. And this is what the Florida activists have been doing. And this is why everything is changing here. It's because of the people here. So much passion, so much education. They educate themselves on this incredibly complicated field of phosphate mining because it's been just able to stay under wraps. But people have figured it out. Like I said, incredible group of activists here. I've learned so much, not only about phosphate mining, but about how to be an activist. And this movie is another great example. It's almost like a handbook on how to fight back in your local community, because guess what? We all have water issues, one way or the other. Guarantee you what's coming out of your tap is probably not going to be very good for you. And the question is, what is coming out of your tap? What's it doing to you and your family? And how can you stop it? These are the questions that we kind of know the answers to in Arcadia, but we still need more answers. And we need Mosaic to step up and also start offering participation by the residents, start offering that they need to do things better. We need them to step up, be responsible, act like adults, stop poisoning us and pretending like nothing's going on. Anyway, guys, there's the link down there for the 29th. If you want to do a screening, please go to phosphatemovie.com. We have a link there as well. And you can go to the community screenings and you can have a screening in your area. Because of COVID, we've had a lot of attendance issues. It's fine. If you want to do one in person, it's fine. If you want to do one online, it's fine. We just want everybody to watch the movie so they can make their own decision about how they feel about allowing this kind of business to continue as usual. So please check it out, educate yourself. It is an amazing documentary, and you will learn from these activists directly. That's the beauty of the movie, is it comes from everybody's stories, and you just get to see them firsthand. Make up your own mind about what's happening. So geneticjusticesteam.com, Molly put that up as well. If you live in an area that is being affected by mines or perhaps by water, but you don't know what's going on, you know your family members are getting sick, you know people are getting sick, go to geneticjusticesteam.com. Molly you can also hit Molly up. She can explain a little bit more to you, but they are working right now to try to change the way business is done as well. So thank you everybody for joining. I am very sad that we weren't able to get Gary on as much as we wanted to. If you haven't seen the movie, please watch it. Gary is an integral part of the movie, and you can learn so much from him. Check out his book. We're going to try to get him back on and try to get one where maybe the technical time will work with us and we can have Gary back on the show. So thank you everybody again for the amazing support. Thank you for everything, being part of the show here, keeping Phosphate up and running, being part of the events, spreading the word. We're not getting a lot of press. Mosaic perhaps has a lot of influence over a lot of the local press. So remember, you need to be the press. We need for you to be writing reviews. We need to make a big splash with this because we need to let people know it's a topic we want to talk about. As Garrett Ramey says in the movie, they don't like to talk about it, but we do. We like to talk about it. Wiser words never. Thanks, Garrett. And thank you everybody for joining the show today. Thank you for being there. I look forward to meeting everybody that can make it out on the 28th in Port Charlotte and the 29th at Millennial Brewing in Fort Myers. And I look forward to talking to everybody else. And so everybody have a great day. Thank you for joining. Remember, don't be overwhelmed. Don't be upset. Together, we have solutions. We have ways that we can make a change. And we just have to recognize what's happening, but we don't have to let that define the process and the story of how things unfold. We need to learn what's happening. Then we will take the reins and change how the process and how the story unfolds. And it needs to unfold according to what we want from now on. So thanks everybody again for joining, and I look forward to talking to you soon.